Welcome to All Grown Up Now, Tales of a Checkered Past. I'm Kenneth D. King, podcasting from my studio near Union Square in New York City. This podcast is an evolution of the tale, All Grown Up Now, A Friendship in 3 Acts. This is Season 2, and it's called Tales of a Checkered Past. It's a collection of short stories from my salad days on up to the present. In each podcast, another self-contained story will be presented. These podcasts will be broadcast bi-weekly, so you get 2 a month. Enjoy. For episode 66, we have another installment of Boys Shorts. This is Boys Shorts 6. 2 very short, amusing stories that I hope you'll enjoy. The first story I call The Inspection Sticker. The year is 1981, and the place is Oklahoma City. Since there wasn't a lot going on in Oklahoma City, I needed to get inventive. I'd finished college, and I was working at Dillard's at Quail Springs. In addition, I decided to take a pattern-making class at Central State University in Edmond, Oklahoma, something I never had time to do while I was getting my degree. During that time, one of the things my sister Kathy and I would do to amuse ourselves was to see how long our car inspection stickers could be expired before we got caught. Now, a little explanation is in order here. In Oklahoma, there was a state law that required that you get your car inspected every year. Each year was a color-coded sticker, so the police could easily spot if you had an out-of-date sticker. If you were stopped, they would take your driver's license and make you get the car inspected and then present proof of inspection. It was only then you got your license back. This particular year, I was winning with my sticker having been expired a year and 4 months. Now, for our more challenged listeners, it expired, and then a year and 4 months elapsed. Just explaining. So, as I said, I was taking a pattern-making class at Central State University. My pattern-making final was due, and my professor told me I could drop it off during the day. So, at lunch, I drove from Quail Springs to Edmond to do just that. On my way there, while driving down Edmond Road towards the school, I saw a motorcycle cop pass going in the other direction. Something told me he'd noticed my sticker. Uh-oh. And sure enough, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw him make a U-turn, turn on his lights and his siren. Damn. He pulled me over on Edmond Road and Broadway, one of the busiest intersections in town. Everyone I knew could see me because I was still driving my red Celica. I got out of the car. As I closed the car door, I realized I had no identification whatsoever. None. No checkbook, no driver's license, nothing. So I started to sweat. Then, the officer walked over from his motorcycle. I thought, watching this blonde Nordic god type in uniform stride towards the car, thigh muscles rippling under the tight fabric of his uniform trousers. He should have been named Sven or Thor. He had a butt and thighs like a stallion, legs that could snap a man in half. His chest muscles were straining the fabric of his shirt. Woohoo. Peering at the sticker, the officer said, "Do you realize this sticker has been expired a year and 4 months?" I was so proud. I was winning the game. "Yes, sir," I said. "Can I see your driver's license?" "I don't have one on me, sir." He paused. Can I see some other form of identification then? I don't have any, I replied. Credit card? No. Checkbook? No. All I have, officer, is my pattern-making homework because I was dropping it off on my way back from work. The officer was sizing me up at this point, trying to decide if I was trying to pull something or if I was really on the level. I guess this means I'm going to have to take you in, he said gruffly. And my mind reeled. I first imagined that I would get to ride on the motorcycle with my arms around him, oh boy, but decided that probably wouldn't happen, even with handcuffs. Darn. Then I thought, oh God, I'm going to be late to work, and I don't even have a quarter for my one phone call. I figured, well, I'm screwed. So I had to think, what am I going to do? I decided to brazen it out. With my head held high and my best French aristocracy going to the guillotine pose, I put my wrists out in front of me, looked him in the eye, and said, "Officer, do your duty." It so unnerved him that he tore up the ticket, which ultimately bought me 3 more months before I finally got caught again. The second story I call Miss Anne and Her Checkbook. Miss Anne was a banker. She was working at the Bank of America when she met my dad and only quit when they were married. I think that if she didn't think that she had to have children, Miss Anne would have continued to work to become a bank executive, but that's another story. As a result of working in a bank, Miss Anne was extremely particular with finances and her checkbook. Many times I remember as a kid watching her sitting at the kitchen table, her check register laid next to the bank statement, reconciling the two. I remember the mechanical adding device she used. I have it to this day, so she could check to make sure her math was correct. This was in the days before pocket calculators, you understand. Miss Anne's check register looked like a bank ledger, each entry neatly inked into the little tiny spaces. There was no cheating or funny business. You could look at the ledger and see every date, every recipient, the amount of the check, and at the end of the month, she would make a special entry to show she had reconciled it, the date she had done it, and the results. Everything was filled out precisely. It was intimidating. So, of course, when we were in high school, Miss Anne took a job at a bank. I do think that she was happiest there, even though she complained. It got her out of the house, and thankfully for us kids, it got us out from under her watchful eye. For her, it was all about the balancing. I think that the beauty of balancing a teller's window every day was something she could control, especially in a life where so many other things were out of balance. Miss Anne spoke fondly of having the window balance and was proud when she was able to figure out an error in her or the other teller's windows. Eventually, she was promoted. Miss Anne became the one who balanced the entire bank at the end of the day. So balancing was important. When I got my first checking account, Miss Anne sat me down and showed me how to balance the checkbook. She stressed the importance of keeping it balanced, making sure everything was noted correctly, all that. Sad to say, I didn't get the lesson. My checkbook never looked like a ledger in a bank. My writing was sloppy, the blanks not filled consistently, and my statement never reconciled. It was an exercise in frustration, one I dreaded each and every month. When I moved to San Francisco, I still tried to balance my checkbook. Many times I sat with the checkbook and bank statement at the kitchen table, stomach in knots, knowing that I would burn through an entire evening on this frustrating and ultimately unsuccessful task. I hated it. But I kept after it because in some irrational way, I thought that the checks would bounce and the cops would come for me if I didn't balance my checkbook every month. The bank would send the cops to get me. Then, one day, I had an epiphany. I didn't have to do this. Now, this was in the early days of the ATM machines. I observed that they printed a balance on the receipt. I figured that if I kept track of the money that way, I could make sure there was enough in the account to cover all the checks. And it was a revelation. Now, in the early days, this required constant vigilance because I was generally close to the line financially. But over time, as my income rose, it became far easier. On one of my visits back to Oklahoma City for the holidays, I accidentally let it slip that I didn't balance my checkbook anymore. And, oh my God, Miss Ann started out on a rant about the dangers and hazards of not balancing your checkbook that lasted about 3 hours. It seemed that I could be carted away by the authorities, people would bilk me out of all sorts of my money, dogs would sleep with cats, the earth would tilt on its axis, the results of my negligence were dire. My response to this tirade was, well, I just make so much money, I don't have to worry. Don't get smart with me, young man, Miss Ann shot back. After this rant wound down, which was about 3 hours later, I thought to myself, oh boy, it took this long to come out about not balancing my checkbook. It's going to take an entire day if I tell her I'm gay. Fast forward to December of 1987. I quit my day job to start my business in March of 1987. My relationship blew up in September of 87. The stock market crashed in October, and my ex moved out early December. I'd be giving up my apartment by mid-January to live in my garage of a studio, sleeping on a broken-down sofa at night and listening to the mousetraps clacking like castanets. Since there was no money to buy raw silver, I had to melt down all of my silver jewelry in early December to fill an order for the posh LA store. It was in this state of affairs that I went to Oklahoma City for Christmas that year. Since my life was all up in the air, I figured, oh, why the fuck not? Everything else is in the shitter. Let's just get it all out. You're going to tell Miss Ann that you're gay. Remembering the 3-hour lecture I got when I told her I didn't balance my checkbook, I figured that this would be an all-day thing. Since we were snowed in on Christmas Eve, I figured that was going to be the perfect time. Miss Ann was captive. She couldn't escape. I had her all day. After breakfast, when she was sitting at the counter drinking her coffee and smoking her 5th cigarette that morning, I decided, okay, now's the time. I walked over, stood opposite her at the counter, screwed up my courage, and said, Mom, there's something I need to tell you. She blew out a big puff of smoke. I stammered, there's something I need to tell you. Miss Ann looked at me evenly and nodded, and then she took another puff from her cigarette. Mom, I just want to be honest. Well, I'm gay. 2 beats skipped. Miss Anne took another puff, still looking at me. "Do you think I'm stupid?" she asked. "No, I just wanted it to be out there," I said. "What with everything else that's happened this year, I just wanted this to be on the table." "I've known for years," Miss Anne replied. "Oh." Looking down, she said, "I just want you to be happy." "I am, Mom. Or mostly," I said. "I'm working on it." "Okay," she shrugged. Then she looked back up at me and took another drag from her cigarette. "I have a question." Now, God, thinking it was going to be something icky, I steeled myself and said, "What?" "Do you still not balance your checkbook?" Miss Anne had her priorities, and this conversation took about 3 minutes. Thanks for listening. You can get the audiobook All Grown Up Now on iTunes, Audible, and Amazon, or from my website, allgrownupnow.com. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play. If you have any questions, you can reach me through the website, allgrownupnow.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Kenneth D. King, on Facebook at Kenneth D. King Design, or on my main website, kennethdking.com.